And we are live. Gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Mecca of Banter podcast. It's a special episode to start because we have Lucas Winkleman and Andy Hoover representing their own clubs in North London, which is split. We don't know if it's white. We don't know if it's red. It is perfectly in the middle, but we will get to that in a second. I am this week's host, Henry Wind. You can find me on Twitter at Henry Wind, or really just under the at Mecca of Banter, because I feel like I'm on there enough. That's where I really am.
I think it's you and me.
Yeah, we're just responding.
I need to be better about it, but even before all this, I was never the kind of guy that just tweeted stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I'll go on there and read threads and stuff, but I do need to get better at that.
Sometimes you just gotta get in there.
Unfiltered thoughts.
Yeah. My favorite thing is when I'm scrolling through the timeline and I read a tweet, I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. I'm gonna like that, and it's something that Hoove has clearly said on our account. I was like, I'm not gonna like our own account, but alas, I'll say it this week as I say every single week. It is a great week to be a Manchester United fan. Big 1-0 victory that we will be discussing a little later on. But before we talk shit to one another, let's check in with the fellas. How we doing? Andy Hoover, what's going on, man?
Pretty good, man. Things are good over here. I can't lie to you. I'm geeked about every week that I get to get back on here, and Spurs don't disappoint me. So that's super exciting. And same with St. Louis, dude. The 3 points they had on Saturday was actually insane. The gravity, I think, of what happened on Saturday and the comeback they took to Minnesota can't be understated. Unbelievable. 4 points from clinching the first spot in the West, and we've got home field advantage of the playoffs. So looking forward to it. Let's chat it up.
The boys get some free soccer in the postseason. That's what I like to hear. Lucas Winkleman, what's going on, brother?
What's up, guys? Winks here at LCW21 on Twitter. Good week here too. Saka had his first Champions League goal last week, midweek, which was awesome to see in that spanking of PSV, and then got 1 point out of Spurs at the weekend. Not our best game, but obviously we'll dive into that. But what I will say is that was one of the most entertaining North London derbies that I've watched in quite a long time. Yeah. It's fun when we go into it knowing that we're going to win, but I think it's more thrilling when it's close like that, even if the result wasn't what either of us wanted. Yeah. But the Premier League's another good week.
Yeah, the Premier League's better off with both of those two teams being good. It's good for the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's get into it. Obviously, a huge game. I'm going to let you two take it away on this. I can provide third-party commentary where needed, but just to echo you, Lucas, as a dog or a guy with no dogs in either camp in this fight, what a fun game to watch. I was glued to the TV the entire time. So what were your thoughts on the game? Who's better this season? Is Tottenham... are they for real?
I think they're for real, and it pains me in every which way to say that. I was watching the game severely hungover from my bed at 8 a.m. Sunday morning. Shout out to Christian and Amanda Argyros, got married. Two of our good friends got married Saturday night. But yeah, was hurting watching that game in a lot of ways outside of physically. I think it was the first time that we were outpossessed by Spurs collectively since who knows when, which was weird. Y'all are definitely a completely different team. I think at times we weren't really able to get a whole lot going because of how often you guys were breaking up plays, getting the ball out of bounds, shutting down Odegaard in the middle. I feel like he didn't nearly have as much time and space to create as he normally does, both against you guys and in general. But regardless of how the goals were scored, I think it was good that we were the first ones to score in terms of momentum, because there were a lot of times that Raya made some great saves and you guys could have gone ahead. But the fact that you guys scored both your goals while being down one was a positive for us in terms of momentum. I thought that we started out really well, pressed really quickly, played out wide a lot, and looked to isolate Saka and Udogie, however you say it.
Yeah, Destiny Udogie.
Yeah.
More
especially
like
once he got that.
because he's got that dog in him, bro.
Doggy.
Oh, he's got that dog in him.
He did until he got that yellow card, and then we really tried to isolate them because we knew he couldn't be diving in as much as he could, and I think that Saka kind of created our first goal off of that. He got the ball on the right wing, and Ben White had a great overlap, allowed him to cut inside, and even though the shot was going to be off target, we fortunately had Mr. Romero's shoulder there to help us out. And put it in the net. And fun fact, I think he's now the 11th player and first Spurs player, which was super surprising when I read this, to give up a pen and score an own goal in the same game.
Wow.
Which is just wild.
And
first Spurs player.
And outside of those two events, he played pretty well. He played pretty well.
Yeah,
that's what's crazy about this sport is that
100%.
you can have a great game defensively and then be responsible for two goals like that, which
two just bizarre moments.
Nobody wants, but
two crazy things. And I think I think the second one is pretty unfortunate because legitimately, he's so close to I forgot who even shot that shot inside of the box.
White.
So he was so close to him. Literally, even if he tried to pull his hands out of the way, couldn't. But then it just goes to show the inconsistency of the handball thing. There's been plenty of those where it's been just as close or even further away than Romero was and hasn't been called. And granted, yes, Romero is kind of on the goal line and whatever, you can take that in consideration, but it's still the same rule.
My issue with the penalty call isn't actually the call itself. I think he was blocking a shot on net that Vicario was diving left, and it was maybe going to go in the net if it doesn't hit his hand. So I don't think I was sitting there and I was like, nailed on pen. Yeah, that's just
100%.
That's what it looked like to me. The 5 minutes of VAR time to decide that is frustrating.
Yeah, that frustrates me too.
And then you look back at some of the calls they've had previous in the year, and even another one on Romero against United early in the
Garnacho's.
season. It was damn similar. So that's what pissed me off. I thought Postecoglou said it really well at the end, and he's just like, "Look, mate, we don't know what a handball is." He's like, it's pretty evident that there's not a lot of consistency there. So he's like, as soon as I saw it, he's like, I truthfully didn't know what they were going to call. So that's, as a manager, that kind of sucks to not know how that's going to work out. But my thoughts are positive. I had a really good watch and day and feeling about all of it. I will say before I go into how unbelievable I love and how great this team is and they're the best in the world. Before I go into that, I do think Arsenal had a worse game than Spurs had a good game. But on the same side of that token, I don't think Arsenal play the way that they do unless Spurs are motoring in, the press and the way that they've had.
I totally agree.
So I wouldn't say, I thought the Jorginho give up to Matters was shitty. He shouldn't have been out.
He shouldn't have been out there in the first place.
He shouldn't have been out there in the first place.
It was so sad. Yep. At first, I had no idea why he was going off. Right at the beginning, before the second half started.
What happened?
Yeah, so
discomfort.
Lower back discomfort or aggravation, whatever it was. But he is out there lining up, or I guess he's standing near the sideline. But right before the second half starts, he comes off, and I'm just like, what's going on? There's no way in a game like this that Arteta's taking him off at half.
Yeah.
Knowing how much of an impact player he is, no way. There has to be something else going on. But nobody was saying anything. Twitter was all wondering the same thing. Yeah. And
I was dying. I thought you were
like, let's go.
Exactly. I was like, I can't believe this dude's about to come off at half in a dirt. Exactly. No, yeah, right.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So thankfully it looks like he'll be okay this weekend, but had something going on with his lower back, and he was just super uncomfortable. And we all know how much passion that guy plays with. So in a game like the North London Derby, you could see they kept going back to him on the video camera sitting on the bench, and he was fucking pissed. And then obviously Jorginho isn't the ideal replacement there with Partey being out. It is what it
Yeah.
is. But
The first 10 minutes those guys are on the pitch, Havertz gets a yellow card, and Jorginho single-handedly is responsible for a heavy touch that leads to matters that leads to a goal. So too bad Nicky's not on to
Dude,
throw
Nick
out
would
the
be
secret.
rolling.
He'd be loving the secret agent allegations here. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that I want to point out on Spurs. Like, nobody had us set to even do okay in this game. My opinion was 2-2. I texted you guys late as hell on Friday and was just like, I think it's going to be 2-2. I don't like, all the pundits, everyone who's got paid a shit ton of money to sit behind a camera and, spit shit out of their face, got it wrong, in my opinion. They didn't get swept off the pitch. They came in, they played the exact same way that they've wanted to play. I've watched so many managers take different tactical approaches to different games, to every game. It's so nice to know how you're going to play every week. And this one validates the style. This one validates the play, in my opinion, because the conversation was they're so open at the back all the time, which they are, that, Arsenal should capitalize on that, every 10 minutes or so. They didn't. The inverted wingback thing is just so locked down, and I think that had a huge effect on Odegaard. With Porro and Udogie in possession, tight to the six, and then you see like Sar and Højbjerg and whoever's on the other side drift super far wide. It's such an interesting way of playing.
I was going to point that out and give Ange some props there, because I feel like that was where we were weakest, especially on the right side, because I think that led to your guys' first goal. But Porro was inverting, Jesus stayed with him, so Sar dropped back, and then when he dropped into space, and I forget who he built up with in the middle, maybe Son dropped in, but he with Sar popping out there, that drew Zinchenko all the way up the field. So
that
then
right
he plays a through ball to Son, and then it's him and Kulusevski on the right side against Gabriel. 2-on-1, and yeah, I think that was what led to the first goal. But
they picked their spots. Yeah, they picked their spots really well. I think from the stuff I've read, I'm no tactician, but Arsenal don't get it as wide. They don't bring balls in from the wide. They're not crossing the ball from wide. They like to get it there and then get it back into the middle. So he was just clogging lanes. There just wasn't a lot of room to operate through the center of the park, which led to, the Arsenal goals being on the wide side, because you did get Saka in these one-on-ones every once in a while, which I'm sure Postecoglou knew was going to happen. But it feels good to know that they played well. And I don't want to say that they played Arsenal off the field, because Arsenal's always in the game no matter what. The last 10 minutes, you were taking a corner kick, and I was like sweating, standing up in the other room of my TV, just like not okay. But they played so admirably that I think we can put them back in conversation of one of the best teams. Not, one of the best teams is a stretch. This was the first real test that they've had. No offense, and that one wasn't, not your guys' best. But even then, you guys could have scored a couple too. Jesus could have had one early. 100%. They picked up matters on the 6. There were a whole lot of things, and it comes back to Postecoglou, and they went in, and he told Matters straight away. He's like, I know exactly what you're trying to do it there. He's like, do it again. He's like, keep doing it. He's like, I love where you were going with that pass. He's like, you took too many touches. You know what you did wrong. He's like, do it again. He's like, they're so unbelievably stuck to their principles that it's changing. Things are changing. They're looking more confident. We've got a consistent lineup for the most part. Brennan Johnson, I thought, had an amazing 60 minutes. I hope his injury, seems muscle related, isn't long term. There's just so many things to be excited about. Mickey Van de Ven's a player. He's rapid.
I was actually just going to say, talking about him, but for as much as we've, talked about Ange being that guy this season, because he is that guy.
Yeah.
You all haven't made a wrong signing this season. Like, you look at every single person you brought in, and they're not only playing a huge role, but they're playing it well. They're displacing some, long legends of that club. Eric Dyer, he sat on the bench. And so what I think is interesting is I kind of preseason thought that Spurs were going to kind of get that jolt from Postecoglou, but it's almost like he's really just saying like, yeah, we're gonna finish top 4 for sure. I don't know about these other competitions. I don't know what's going on with those, but like we're establishing ourselves back in England, and that's a respectable thing to do.
Yeah,
it's been great.
There were fans, and myself included, who were really upset about the drop of the Carabao Cup just in the first round. That Spurs fans just want a trophy. I could give a care what it is as long as it's in a relevant competition and they can lift it at some point during the season. But he had an interview after that, and they were like, a lot of people were pretty upset with the team you played, the rotation, and he went into just so much bigger of a picture. He's like, I signed a 3 or 4 year deal. He's like, I plan to be here through at least that deal. He's like, I'm building something from the ground up. He's like, I understand that the fans want trophies. And it's been however long. He's like, I know. He's like, I know what I signed up for when I got here. He's like,
yeah,
one trophy, one Carabao Cup doesn't justify 3 years for me. He's like, I want to be pushing for things and have a team that can contend, with everything, with everyone. And that's so good to hear from my point of view, who also wants a trophy. Like, I'll take whatever you give me. But, building something is what's most important. And he's got the foundational pieces in Vicario. Everyone wants to make a Brentford or a Brighton signing until they make one. And that's worked out unbelievably for us. That guy's been
100%.
nails, to be totally fair. He's great with his feet. He's a cat on the line. He hasn't put many feet wrong. And everyone else would come in. Got to give a shout out to Fabio Patrici from jail because he did some really good work before he got thrown into some allegations. But yeah, man, there's the only thing is up. Liverpool next week, and I've never felt better about a cursed fixture that Spurs always have, which is Liverpool at home and at away. So very excited for that one.
Okay, gentlemen, moving on from the North London Derby, we are joined back by Nick Haflinger and Connor Sindobri. Welcome to the podcast, fellas. And Connor, you came at the perfect time. We're moving right into Manchester United's 1-0 victory over Burnley. Now, I know that you were doing some bigger things this weekend. You were having some sodas, swinging a couple clubs. But any thoughts on the 1-0 victory from the Burnley game?
First off, good to be here, fellas. I haven't been here in like 3 weeks. Yeah. Firsthand, you are right. That's why my voice is gone. And secondly, I think I have to say that this is the first weekend I think I haven't watched Man United in maybe 5 or 6 years, and it was the most relaxing, I mean stress-free that I've been in forever. Literally, I was on the golf course when United was playing, and I was like, do I try to put the game on my phone? Do I not put the game on my phone? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it up to God. I'm going to leave it up to God. I'm going to leave it up to God. And you know what God threw me? God threw us Johnny Evans. So I'm happy with the 1-0 win and a Bruno goal. From the highlights that I've seen, I did watch the 15, 20 minute little highlight recap. And it looked, and you can dive in a little more, but to me, it looked like we just won. The performance that wasn't necessarily there. I did see that Hannibal looked halfway decent. But then again, we were on a losing of 3 games in a row. So I'm happy with a 1-0 win, no matter who it's against, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's a great thing to say. I don't think that we looked like world beaters by any means, but backtrack to a year ago. And this is kind of the perspective that comes, the day after or 2 days after the game. Last year, we got obliterated the first 2 games of the season, and then we went on to beat Leicester, and I don't even remember who else, 1-0 scraping by games last year. And neither of them were great, but we went on this huge streak after that. And sometimes we've all talked about it on this podcast. Sometimes you have to win ugly, and that for sure was winning ugly for us. You saw our lineup, Johnny Evans and Lindelof holding it down at the center back pairing. Thank God that was this week and it wasn't against Arsenal. It wasn't against Tottenham. 3 points is 3 points. I'm stoked on it. But there's definitely a couple of players that just kind of looked disinterested, to be honest with you. It's kind of been the same story for a couple of weeks. But then on the same account, like I'm not going to just like shit on Manchester United this week, but there's a couple of players that really, really are looking like they're figuring it out and giving it their all. I mean, Bruno got the goal. His finish was disgusting.
That was a great goal.
Insane.
That was gross.
That is such a hard shot to pull off, and he did. But he looks like, I mean, he's just putting in a shift on both ends of the pitch. It's so easy to see. Hannibal, as you mentioned, looked great. I saw a lot of spark and a lot of fight out of him. Casemiro has kind of figured it out a little bit more as time gone on, but there's a lot of people that just don't look good at all and look disinterested. Special shout out to Serge Reguilon. That he's been a big signing. Don't know where that came from with his performances at Spurs and his lack of performances at Atletico Madrid. So, I mean, I'm stoked on it, but then also kind of like a lesser talked about thing of this game, because, you know, everyone's kind of looking at Johnny Evans, is Onana got a shutout, which is, you know, again, against Burnley, you want that to happen. Yeah, dude, fire. But the thing is,
I thought Evans, I didn't see the lineup before the game. So when I saw the assist, I thought like Licha or somebody got hurt. I had no idea he started the whole game until
the whole
after
thing.
the game. I was mind blown.
Crazy that he started the whole thing. But yeah, Onana gets a shutout, which, you know, we all on this podcast before the season started put him in like our 11 for the year. You know, we talked about him winning the Golden Glove. And he has had a rocky start to the season. So from a confidence perspective, has to be good for him. But 3 points is 3 points, and then kind of on to the next one, to be honest with you all.
Dude, Reguilon had 6 months of being Spurs' number one left back, and it was before even Perisic came in with Conte. And he was extremely serviceable on a flat four. Like, he's the truest left back that I've ever seen. He's pretty okay going forward. He's pretty okay on defense, but he connects the dots pretty well. He gets up and back a lot, and I always liked him. He doesn't fit in the current system, and he didn't fit in Conte's. So I think, to be honest, it makes a lot of sense for him to move there. I don't love that he went to United and has just had this, you know, resurgency in form, but that's just the price you pay when you're not going to start or play, you know, a couple guys on the team.
I can't speak to Burnley, but since he's come in the team, and whoever you and I were texting about this a little bit, like, he's been fantastic on the ball, but more so to me, it's like he's a guy that has something to prove. Like, clearly he's like,
he's supposed to play.
Clearly, like he was at a top 6 club. He was at Spurs. He was kind of on his way out, and never in a million years did he probably think he was going to get an opportunity like this at another top 6 club. And here he is, almost trying to like resurrect his career a little bit. And so far, at least from what I've seen, I've been extremely impressed.
He's a really good dude and a good locker room kid. And like, I always really liked him and his personality, and definitely always gave it all for, you know, the team. So he's not going to play on Spurs. So like, don't have any beef. I'm happy for the guy. I liked him as a person.
Yeah, we saw another debut from Amrabat. He came on the last 4 minutes as a left back, did not play in the middle, played as a left back for 4 minutes because I guess why not, you know? Sure. And Højlund looked good again, even though like he didn't get a goal. He had some really, really good movements. Delot put in an absolute firecracker of a cross a couple minutes into the game that he was literally inches away from. So, you know, I have high hopes for him. But moving on, gentlemen, we have a 3-1 victory over West Ham for Liverpool. We're not going to touch on it. But I did want to bring up an interesting note from the Mecca. Brian Flannery threw out a statistic about Liverpool this season that it seems like they don't start playing a game until they go down 1-0. It's been true all season, and this was the same way. West Ham went up 1-0, and Liverpool kind of does what Liverpool has done historically over the last 5 or 6 years and come from behind and win the game 3-1, kind of open and close. Don't need to go into Liverpool at all. But Chelsea, Nicholas Hayflinger, we're still out here trying to play footy, I guess. The £1 billion is not equating to goal. I think about this every week, man, of like how to intro Chelsea's game on this podcast, because like I've run out of things to say.
I'm gonna cut you off and just say that I do feel bad. Not for the club. I feel bad for Nicky getting on this every week and having to somehow come up with something to say. For Pochettino. I don't feel bad for Pochettino in the slightest, but you and the local guys, I'm feeling for you.
Yeah. I was hoping that similar to Liverpool, we would just skip over us as well, but we're here. It's not fun. I'm gonna be completely honest. It's really not fun. I literally watched Chelsea over the North London derby, and I can tell you it was not great to watch. The red card, I mean, I don't know if you guys watched any of the highlights. He hits the ball first, and he rolls over on his ankle. I know it is. I'm not defending it. I just think it's kind of unfortunate. And then I think that changed the whole outcome of the game. I also don't think we have anything really moving forward. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the thing that I'm kind of clinging on right now for hope is injuries. We do have a lot of injuries. Nkuku is still, we haven't seen him yet. I still think Reece James, when he's healthy, is a huge asset if he can stay healthy. But I'm hoping we don't get relegated at this point. So that's where I'm at.
Dude, you guys aren't even close to as bad as Luton or Burnley or...
Two suspensions to add on top of that too. Nico Jackson's out with yellow card suspension, and then Gusto's out now.
Yep.
Nico. I feel bad for Nico. That guy just has been fucking yellow carded for everything. It feels like, I will say.
He also can't score a goal.
I came on here about a month ago, and I got shit on, and I mean shit on, for asking about the panic button. And if this thing is not out slammed a million times, I would wake up in the middle of the morning if I was a Chelsea fan and just hammer that thing.
I don't think it's you keep saying that.
You have 4 wins in 2023. You have 4 wins.
We finished 12th last year, Dobes. It sucked last year. I was panicking button then. Now I'm on this whole
real talk. If I could tell you at the end of the season you would finish on 12th right now, would you take it?
Yes, I said it at the do not remember at the beginning or the end of last year, I told you guys I'd be happy if we finish above 12th. And you guys all thought I was crazy. Dope said we'd finish top 4. And I was like, I don't see it. There's nothing that I've seen that's been impressive football from Chelsea that I've been inspired by. That's the facts. That's what it is. So I'm hoping we don't get relegated.
Don't worry. Drop another.
I think. Oh, you want? That's the panic button. If we get relegated, I'm panicking.
Do you think? Okay, hold on.
The standards are low.
The standards are non-relegation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good God.
That's why I get that.
With what I'm watching week in and week out, that is where my standards are. 100%. I'm hoping we don't get relegated.
Do we think that all these players that signed 8-year deals have relegation clauses in their contracts?
Flip it. That is going on TikTok. That is going on Instagram.
Absolutely. Clip it. Do it.
He said, clip me up, chat. Now,
something's got to change.
We're 20 years old. We have a bunch of youngsters. That's the only thing that you can really cling on to.
Okay, so here's what I was saying. I was talking to my Dan Hornsey, and I was literally watching the highlights, and the concept and the strategy of signing young guys in theory works out every time, right? Distance, longevity, future, and it's a lot of obviously not like Brighton, but it's a lot of guys that
look at Kai and Mount. They both fucking went for millions.
It's a lot of guys that in the future
they both won the Champions League.
In the future they'll be good. My point right now is that if Thiago Silva's not on that pitch, you guys don't have a out-and-out leader. You guys don't have someone not only who's been at the club longer than a year, because 90% of the starting lineup, and he doesn't have the band. I think
Gallagher has the band.
They love Conor Gallagher, bro. They're seeing something that worth seeing.
That's a Pochettino thing. Pochettino always does captains from the academy, younger guys, that. That's what he likes to do.
There's no leader.
And then he was injured, so
Reece made sense. Reece was absolutely the correct decision, and I thought that was okay. And Thiago Silva is probably one of the, what's it called, vice captains or something. But like, there's no one stepping up to be like, more. Like, there's no one giving the passion that I feel like I've seen from Chelsea for forever.
Yeah, I guess like at some point, I feel like we have to set like a limit on this podcast of like, if we get to Christmas and they're still in the relegation battle, we got to stop like talking like them like they're a feature of our podcast. Like they're just like a bottom. But I mean, we're not talking about Everton every week. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it happens every week.
It's just like it's just been that way. But Connor, I know that you weren't here yet when we talked the North London derby, but there's a pretty interesting statistic from that game that needs to be mentioned, and I feel like you're the perfect guy to bring it in. I know.
Yeah, I can't believe you guys forgot it.
I didn't forget.
James Bond gained a new colleague. We have another 007.
Yeah, we do.
And his name is Kai Havertz. We have to mention that truthfully, and I mean this. Like, I feel bad for the guy. Like, I genuinely feel bad for the guy because he is not doing himself any favors at all. It is very funny, and I'm just hoping that Mount can score tomorrow or assist tomorrow or something.
Hey, double agents, boy.
Nick, we said it right before you guys even got on. I was talking, the game changed in the North London derby when Jorginho and Havertz came in.
That's the best thing about Chelsea right now is talking about their players playing for other clubs.
The other players that also sucked at Chelsea still sucking. That's fantastic.
Football heritage.
The cool stat I have on Chelsea is that Chelsea have 2 wins since Graham Potter got sacked.
And that their goal of the month is going to come from their U23 team because they didn't fucking score a goal this month.
More managers than wins.
Chelsea's been the United savior. What is crazy, though, I do have to say, it is insane the amount of hate that Ten Hag gets, and Poch is just like not just like scot-free. Like, it's fucking insane.
Different levels of expectations, I think, so, too.
Ablaze right now. Dude,
I don't think he's scot-free, but I think he's scot-free out of, like, Sky Sports. But, they're still looking at it like, rebuild.
I was talking to, I think it was Winks at a wedding we were at this weekend, or it could have been someone else after a bet I made with Winks over the weekend. But Chelsea's, like, our roller coaster, our lows are very low and our highs are very high.
Oh yeah,
and
I remember this. Yeah.
Arsenal, it's like their high is second place and their low is like 6. Like they're just kind of right here. And with Chelsea, it's when we're peaking and playing good, we're winning Champions Leagues. And like when we're low, we're really low and we're in 12th.
So we'll ask you the question. We'll ask you the question that the bet was made on the weekend. Just Hoove and Dobes. Let's get your thoughts on this. The bet, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Winks, you share it.
We put a Benjamin on whether Chelsea or Arsenal would win a title first, specifically Champions League or Premier League. Naturally, backed our own clubs, but
that was the bet.
Yes.
What are we talking about?
What kind of odds did you get, Haiti? God damn.
Yeah,
poor guy took even money on that.
Chelsea should be like plus 7,000 in that bet.
Arsenal ain't winning anything anytime soon.
I don't disagree with that personally, but I also don't think you guys are that close either.
They haven't won in 20 years, brother. 20 years. That's insane.
Hey, I'll admit, I was a couple sodas deep, and I said, "I'll take that bet." I said, "I'll go Chelsea."
I think the thing is, like, I trust Arteta and the structure that they have of the players that they're going to bring in more than I trust Todd Bowley, because it doesn't make. I mean this. The bet that I want to make is like, does Poch make it to Christmas?
Ooh,
because like I really don't think he does.
Bet. That's a good bet.
I think that's the question for sure.
I don't think
he makes it past it. I hope we give him a year.
Okay, so with that, like, if let's say he gets sacked before Christmas, do you see that as like another situation? Huh?
If he gets sacked before Christmas, I hate it because then we're in the vicious cycle that was Tottenham.
Yeah. So that's my question exactly. But the thing is that like, if they're literally sitting in 16th, 17th, wherever they're sitting, I think it's 16th. If they're sitting in 16th leading into Christmas, do you not sack the manager?
The stadium will burn down.
You think so?
Chelsea,
Yeah, it might.
Chelsea fans
I
are
was gonna say, as far as like Chelsea Twitter right now and all that stuff, it's not great. Like, I don't know what it's like over there. I don't know what it's like in the stadium. People were leaving early against Aston Villa. I don't know what it's like on the pressure with Poch. I'm hoping we give him a full year, but if we're in 16th in Christmas, who knows? Chelsea we've gone through how many managers in the last year? I mean,
I think your squad's too strong to get to 16th. I think you're too strong to get to 16th at Christmas. But I think if that happens, bro, you call Jesse Marsh. Like, you need a certified relegation saver at that point. Like, and nothing against it, because I don't think that happens. But those are the only guys at that point who are going to be like, fuck it, I'll take on that job. You're like, sure, whatever.
Just take all of the ego out of it.
Yeah,
I need to see a goal, dude. Just a goal. For fuck's sake, dude.
The thing is, starting October 21st, I said this to you guys, it's Arsenal, Brentford, Tottenham, City, Newcastle, Brighton, United, all in a row.
So I will say, I said it a couple of weeks ago. The best game I've seen us play was against Liverpool. And I truly do think we play better against top 6 sides. Like, I truly do, because
I agree with that.
No one's gonna sit back and play super defensive against Chelsea, because they all have pride because we're in 15th. United's not gonna be like, oh, we're gonna sit in a block. And that's what all these teams are doing against us, and they're winning because they're getting us on the counter and they're scoring, and then they're sitting late in the block.
Because they're better than you. They're not winning because they're sitting in a block. They're still scoring.
No, you're describing how United plays. They're trying to get on the counter every single game.
I'm just saying, that was another bet I made this week, was I think we get a win out of one of these games against one of these clubs, because I think when we play against these teams, we play a better game.
Do you think Poch will cry on the field like he did in the Champions League semifinal? It'll feel just as strong, just as big of a win?
No.
Getting Chelsea their first win.
Yeah, I was going to say something else that I had texted you guys about yesterday. I don't think any of you guys really said anything back to it yet, but looking at Chelsea's next 7 games, what do you think the odds are that they get? I feel like the line at 3.5 points, table points over the next 7 games is fair. That would be a win and a draw, or 4 draws of their next 7. Do you think that's too high?
Can you say that again, Dobes, of who they're playing, what their games are?
Yeah, that run of fixtures starts on the 21st. So that's 7 of their next 9. So technically they have Brighton next, Fulham, Burnley, and then they go in that stretch.
Arsenal, Brentford, Tottenham, City.
Yeah.
I could see Burnley, them getting some sort of result.
But like Brighton is a team that, like, as we saw what they did to United, like Fulham is another team that is like frisky. Like, all they need is 1 or 2 chances. I think my thing with Chelsea is, like, who's going to step up and score?
Yeah, who's going to be the guy?
It's 1-0. Like,
that's who I'm waiting for.
1-0 to Villa is like, they need to score. Like, 1-0 to Villa is like, 1 goal
we're down, but like we still should have scored. Broja comes in, he can't hit a fucking net either. Oh,
not yet.
I don't know. I think that if I were Chelsea in January, I know that Nkunku's coming back. I think he's better to 10, but I would throw another fucking 250 million at Ivan Toney. Like I've said it before, them not signing a proven number 9 is still insane.
I agree with you.
He did say in an interview that he's always wanted to play for Arsenal, though.
So that means he'll sign for Chelsea then?
Probably. For a lot more. But the opening bid was, I think, 60 million. And I think right now Edu's trying to work a deal to give them Nketiah. And then cash on the side.
I feel for Nketiah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. He's just not the guy. You know who is the guy? St. Louis City. We them boys. We had 2 massive results. sometimes it comes off the dome. But two massive results in the last week. We had a 0-0 tie with LAFC and a 2-1 victory over Minnesota, which was a massive game. And in all, we officially clinched the playoffs. Would have taken a lot of bad stuff to happen for us not to clinch the playoffs after sitting in first the entire season. But nevertheless, two massive performances starting off. LAFC 0-0 midweek. We play all of the dogs. We have a really progressive lineup. Take you guys back to Wednesday. How'd you feel on that game? What were your thoughts leaving the game? Number 1 versus number 2.
Boys, I just
Frustration.
want to say this is the reason I join these pods, because I thoroughly enjoy watching City play and watching the team at the top of the table. If you told me at the beginning of the season that we would be playing LAFC in September, us number 1, them number 2, and us leaving with a 0-0 draw, I think I'd take it. I think I'd be like, sign me up. I'll take that any day of the week. I really do. Defending champs in LA, right? It was in LA, right?
No,
No, it's in St. Louis.
Oh, it's in St. Louis. Okay, never mind.
At home.
But I might sign on the dotted line for that. Is all I'm saying. Like, I'm pretty happy with the result. Yes, it was a boring game. Do I think we probably could have scored a couple? Yes, but a draw to LAFC, I'll take.
Felt like a playoff game.
It did.
Yeah.
Watching the game, it felt like a playoff game. I think the frustration comes from again, there's been multiple City games where I leave with frustration, but I think it's because I think we could have gotten more out of the game. Like, too many times, I think Big Sam and Klaus, it's like they're almost. I know that Klaus isn't that player that's going to like sprint past people like Big Sam is, but they're such similar players. They're both targets, and we almost sometimes refuse to cross the ball, or too many times they were still in the same spot. I don't know. Obviously, LAFC is good, and if we want to, go deep in the playoffs, like that's a team we're going to have to beat. So I think that's the frustration for me. Is I know it wouldn't have mathematically clinched it, but like that was a game to like put the league on notice of like this isn't a fluke. We can do this in big moments in sort of a playoff environment. Yes, we did bounce back at the weekend, but in terms of Wednesday, I was just frustrated to not get a goal.
I think I was frustrated with, I don't want to just claim officiating for everything, but I mean, there were 3 different penalty shouts in the same game that like went to VAR, got overturned, or should have gone to VAR, didn't even get looked at. Like there were some like all 3 handballs, I'm pretty sure were like the 3 different things. So I think that was frustrating, especially at home. But it felt like LA was coming in to manage the game. It didn't look like they were trying to like spring the counter. It didn't look like they were trying to like break us down. It looked like they were there to play defense. And that is what happened. There was one that I've watched on, Twitter and Instagram so many times. There was that one ball that Klaus had kind of like on the wing, and he played that like 70-yard pass over the top to Big Sam.
On a string.
It was disgusting. It was wild. But, 0-0, it was I left feeling frustrated too. And it literally, like, as we were walking out of the stadium, some people behind us were talking about like, hey, big point against the number 2 team. And that is a little bit of perspective, because similar to you, Dobes, I thought that we could have come away with a couple points there. But, we take that game midweek where we play all of the dogs. We play, the top line, and we transition into Saturday against Minnesota. Now, granted, we already clinched. So like we were already in the playoffs, and we played a couple days earlier. I expected a pretty heavily rotated squad. But we rotated damn near everyone in the squad and played a much different lineup. And I know that we all had different, varying points of being able to watch this game or being able to watch highlights of this game. So what were your thoughts on it? Seeing the result, it's a huge comeback win, but any thoughts lingering from this one?
Mine are just, and I'll leave it at this. It's not really about that game specifically, but glad that we clinched the playoffs. But going into the playoffs and clinching first place, like we just have to have a more consistent lineup and consistent formation. I feel like we've played too many different formations and tried too many different things this year, and it's resulted in a lot of our draws and a lot of our losses. This one worked out, thankfully, but Carnell has to have an idea of. I know that we have an idea of what that starting 11 looks like, but I feel like hopefully Carnell has that plan and that idea for playoff time.
No, and I'm pretty sure he came out and said that, like, there was a quote I was reading about how, like, he's okay with the rotation because it's worked all year, but, like, just like you're saying,
I know that we're in first, and I know that
that was like his, like, paraphrasing his quote, but, like, I think the thing to me is, like, when we're playing these games, like, if we want Klaus and we want Big Sam on the field at the same time, like, they need to play together consistently. Like, they have to get those reps. Like, if that's what he wants to do, like, then we have to do that. If he wanted to necessarily be Klaus and Gio, like, Gio's been hurt, Klaus has been hurt. Like, we need to see that. Like, at this point of the year with 3 games left, like, is when you want to be hitting your stride of going into the playoffs. And I don't necessarily know. I don't think I could pick an 11 if the playoffs were to start tomorrow. And I think not necessarily am I concerned about that, but I'm definitely thinking about that if I'm going into a 1-game playoff, not being able to pick a direct 11.
Yeah, I guess, like, I'm okay with, like, replacing one guy. Like, if you look, I mean, we've talked about it a couple of different times. Like, if you choose one of the wingers, there's kind of a few guys that can play that position. In some games it's Celio, some games it's Alm when he's healthy, sometimes Gio's out there, sometimes Sam's out there. I'm okay with rotating, like, one of them, crapshoot of who's doing well in training, but everywhere else on the field you should have those 10 guys that are consistent, and right now it's just not that way.
I think this game was a big example of the difference between our dogs and our not dogs. I think the moment Lowen and Stroud came on the field, the game completely changed. I think Blom was then released, which then led to his first goal, which big shout out to him.
What a peach of a goal too.
I know. I think we
I didn't know he had it in him. I didn't know he had it in him.
Like, I think those guys, like, they're drastically different than our backups. And when we want to win games, they need to be on the field.
Yeah, I'll be curious. The rotation is part of any postseason push for any team. Champions League, people have to rotate. Carabao Cup, people have to rotate. The Premier League, people have to rotate. Same thing with other sports. So I think the lineup and like the formation is also weird depending on what the personnel is on the field. It seems like we changed lineups, like you said, a couple times, but we got to figure that out. But, I guess this brings up a good point, and I'm jumping ahead, in the script here, but, we're 4 points away we have 3 games left in the regular season. We need 4 points to clinch number 1 overall, home field advantage, massive things for the team in the postseason. A Kansas City game is in there at home, which obviously, like, our crosstown rivals, we want to win that game. But let's just say those things happen. Let's say we clinch and we move into the playoffs. What do you see for us? Like, what's our ceiling? Obviously the MLS postseason is different than like what we're used to in the Prem. On the last day of the season, it's not who's number 1 that takes home the trophy. There's a whole postseason. But what do you all see for us?
First, I want to say, before we get into it, the Kansas City game's huge. Like, I don't think we should undersell that. Like, I think we should be playing our dogs. Hopefully, Carnell. Like,
no Johnny Russell for Kansas City either.
Officially?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. But I think that's like rivalry. We didn't get them the first time. Like, we need to have a statement game for that. But what I was going to say with playoffs, sorry, it just said that I reconnected, but I'll keep going. What I was going to say about playoffs is, one thing I like about us is the style that we play is very, like, in your face, fast paced when we're high pressing. And I think on a 1-game playoff system, that works really well. And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that how MLS playoff works?
This year,
it's a 1 game.
A 3-game?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on which round you're in. So, like, if we were to be the 1 seed, I think we'd automatically go to, it's like best of 3. Okay. I think is what it would be, and then it kind of moves to the conference finals from there. To me,
American.
To me, the biggest thing genuinely, and I think our ceiling, I know we're kind of like, Henry, you kind of preface it as like, imagine we do clinch the 1 seed. If that is true, I think our ceiling is actually making it to the final. And the reason I make that is because we are such a different team at home. like it's drastically different how much better we are at home. And I think at City Park, like the environment is going to be insane. I genuinely think that at home, I think we have the potential to get there, which is why I think imagine if we have to go to LAFC and try to get a result. Like if we can stay at home, I truthfully think this team has the ability to get to the final, and that's the most important thing to me. But then again, it's like a lot of these guys haven't necessarily played in this sort of style of like playoffs. It's like typically all these guys have come from like, Klaus is coming not from the MLS to where it's like you just want to win the league. So it's like who's going to be the guys in these big moments in these playoff games time after time after time to step up. And I do think we have some players that are sort of built for that moment. Like I think Klaus is one of those players that's built for that moment. I think Lewin's players that are built for that moment. And I think in those
Berkey is too.
Absolutely. And those are the players you have to have on your roster in order to get something. Anybody can, sort of do it one or two games in the middle of the season, score a couple big goals. It's like you have to have those big game players. And I think that's my biggest concern is do we have those guys in those moments that continuously step up? But if we're at home, I think we do.
Yeah, I think that's why the next couple of games are so important. I agree with you with having that home field advantage. I don't think that it's prudent of us to say that a finals visit is, it's very much in the cards. Of course, all of the marketing. Yeah, I think all the marketing, all the campaign, everything's going to be around. No one ever thought that a first-year team could be where we are. But I think that that's true. I think they're continuing to surprise us, but now we're bought in. And as we head into the postseason, I think the finals visit is pretty legit. Winks, what about you, brother?
Yeah, I think you guys hit it all on the head. Knowing, I guess now probably should have done a little research ahead of time, but knowing that it's like these 3-game series, in hindsight, maybe it will be a good thing that we rotated a little bit and tried, different guys together, for a situation like this. But I hate the fact that that's the predicament in general. But yeah, I think we had a good chance if our leaders, like the guys you mentioned, step up and do their job.
We could be having ourselves a cold November night at City Park.
I would love a cold
wouldn't be colder than the Leverkusen friendly.
Darn right. Yeah, that's true.
It's wild card matches, then it's round 1 best of 3 series matches, then it's conference semifinals, conference finals, and then the MLS Cup.
So is it best of 3 then best of 1?
Is each of those best of 3?
I have no idea. It doesn't say on the MLS website.
Damn.
Let's see.
First year MLS fan, first year serious MLS fans. I'm going to give us a little grace on not knowing.
Conference semifinals is single game elimination. Conference final is single game elimination, and MLS Cup is a single game elimination.
Nice. Okay, so round of 3, then 1, then 1, then 1.
It's so weird.
Yeah, what the fuck's the point?
So weird,
dude. MLS just does some
tire everybody
shit
out.
And if it's tied, it goes to 15 minutes and then PKs.
Okay. Okay, fellas, let's bring it home. We had the Champions League midweek this week. We saw some huge. Yeah, dude. Yeah, see ya. We saw some massive results. So starting off with 2 quick fire results, we have a Barcelona 4-0 win and a Manchester City 5-1 win after conceding that first goal. Don't need to dive into it too much on those two. Kind of expected for both of their opponents. I will say Barcelona looked incredible. João Felix linking up with Lewandowski is disgusting. He's settling in super well there.
Really nice.
Yeah, it's nice, going to a team with João Felix and him immediately settling in. But let's start off with Arsenal. Let's start off with Arsenal. Lucas Winkelmann, 4-0 result over PSV.
Yeah. Fucking awesome for our first Champions League game in quite a while. I think that's like exactly how you want to set the tone. Joining this tournament. I mentioned it earlier on the pod. Saka had his first Champions League goal, long overdue, but really happy for him. Him, Trossard, and Odegaard all played fantastic. Our whole team did, but those 3 especially each had a goal and an assist in that game. And I think that, it's no surprise that Trossard can step up when he's needed. But with Martinelli having been out with an injury, Like I said, that's exactly what you want in a sub, and a guy who knows how much longer he'll continue to be just a sub for us. But what a pickup he's been ever since we signed him last January. Yeah, I mean, it was a thrashing at the Emirates, and we have Lens next, and I predict something similar.
I do want to give you some credit. I mean, like, as we were dissecting these groups, like PSV was like someone who we talked about, like maybe being a little bit of a surprise. Yeah. I know that they lost some guys last year, like Xavi Simons is on RB Leipzig now, but they have some guys who are definitely worth watching week in and week out. They have 3 Americans. Mm-hmm. I think they had 3 Americans in the starting lineup, which I think is the first time that's ever happened in the Champions League. So that's kind of cool.
I'm looking at it, and it looks like it's just 2. Malik Tillman came on in the 66th.
Gotcha.
But nonetheless, and then Pepe came on in the 90th.
Gotcha.
So it was just Serginho. But yeah, they definitely got some dogs, and that's why I think it was such a big deal. Not only for the Champions League, but ahead of the North London Derby, that we came out like that and set the tone and carried as much momentum as we could. Obviously didn't get the result against Tottenham that we wanted, but just as a tone setter as a whole, I'm very, very happy with that. And hopefully we carry that through the rest of the group stage.
Yeah, it'll be a big one. And then finally, last but not least, we had probably the funniest game. Funniest, most frustrating, whatever game I've seen in a long time. Bayern Munich 4, Manchester United 3. Which, before we dive into anything, I thought we were going to get smacked like 4-0, maybe 3-0. I thought that we were going to get thrashed. And similar to what you said earlier, Nick, of like, if you would have told us, a year ago that we would be, number 1 against the number 2 LAFC. If you would have told me that we were to go to Bayern, go to Munich, and lose 4-3, I would have taken it in a heartbeat. I legitimately thought that we were going to get fucking destroyed, and we only lost by 1, which is kind of crazy. I never think that we're going to go into a game we get smacked, and I sure did on this one. Dobes, any thoughts on this game?
A ton of frustration. I think the reason being, and I'm assuming that nobody here watched the game because I know Winks Arsenal was playing, and Nick probably forgot what day the Champions League is on. But
yeah, I deleted that app.
I was watching them both.
It's expensive monthly, dude.
If you watched our start, I think that's the most frustrating part about it is we started so well, mm-hmm. And when you look at the game and you look at our bench. First off, we traveled 3 goalies. We had 2 goalies on our bench, 2 backup goalies. We had 2 kids on our bench who have never started a game for Man United. Johnny Evans, and then I don't even know who the last one was. Scott McTominay. Like, it's like that, you know what I mean? It's like, so I was proud of the effort by the boys in the first 15 minutes because we looked great. We had like 3 or 4 corners. We had a great chance that Højlund just couldn't get to. And then, like, there's no beating around the bush. Like, Onana's mistake was horrible. And then the moment that happened, the entire game flipped. It was like Bayern had nothing the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, but that's what you can't do to teams like Bayern. You can't just hand them a lifeline. And then what is the statistic now? I think it's 34 games now in the group stage they haven't lost in a row in the Champions League. So it's like teams like Bayern that have the quality and talent that they do, you can't give them those chances. But overall, kind of like you said, Han, I mean, maybe it's because we didn't have our full 11, but like watching this Bayern team, like I'm very much okay with a 4-3 result. First off, I didn't even watch it to the end. Like I couldn't have told you it was 4-3. I turned it off in the 75th minute and I was like, oh, fuck, it's 4-3. But like Bayern is very beatable. Like this is a team that like a lot of people took some negatives from this, but based off of like the Bayern that we saw in like against the Bayern Munich, personally, like Eriksen should never play. He's not a player that's built for that system. He's not a player that's built to play against that system.
Not against their midfield.
Not against their midfield.
Yeah, that's get some experience in there with Mount.
That's a Amrabat. That's a Mount. That's a Kobe Mano. Like there's so many more options that we could play, but Eriksen was the only thing we could do, and he was abysmal. But we've known that about Eriksen. He's not quick. He's not defensively sound. He's not the player that can do that role. He did it for 15 minutes, and then once Bayern scored, they took the ball, they kept the ball. And I think the biggest concern for me coming out of that game was like nobody stepped up. Like even Bruno, like the heads went down. There was no reaction. And so many times this year, we've given up one and then given up a second one instantly.
Right away.
And that's exactly what happened in that game.
Dude, it was weird to watch. Like, I haven't watched Bayern play since I lied. I watched one Bayern game since Kane joined, but or part of one. But it was weird how deep Kane was dropping. Like, I felt like more times than not, Jamal Musiala was in front of Harry Kane.
Yeah, 100%.
Like as they try and like get counterattacks and stuff. Like it felt like Kane was playing a cam role.
I feel like that's
more
the same
than
shit
more
he was
than
doing
like a
at
false
Tottenham. Like he's been doing that.
Sometimes, but like when you go to a team like Bayern that's got a midfield like they do, you don't necessarily expect him to still do something like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's the thing. It's like I watched Bayern a bunch this year. One, because I like watching Kane, and two, we're in the same group as them, and like very, very much still in that like Holland was or the City was for the first 2.5 months of the season last
I agree.
year, where they're still trying to figure out how to play with Kane. Like they're still trying to figure out how to play. And I think he's got like 8-7 goals, but they haven't looked great. Like I've watched Bayern and they have not looked great. And truthfully, they didn't even look great against us. Like 2 mistakes and a pen, like that's a whole completely different game. But then again, like they can hit their stride and very much still win it. But at Old Trafford with a fully healthy squad, like I still think we very much can beat them the next time we play them.
That's what I like to hear. That's the confidence we need going into this weekend. And with that, gentlemen, we will wrap this week's episode of the Mecca of Banter podcast. Thanks for listening along. As always, follow us on all of our socials, the TikTok, the Twitter or X, the YouTube, Instagram. Keep your eyes peeled for some content coming over the next week. And hopefully this time next week when we're talking, fellas, we are only 1 point away from clinching that number 1 overall seed after a big win this weekend. Cheers, fellas. We'll see you next week.
Cheers boys.
Cheers, lads.